We're going to start out in Georgia tonight, and we'll talk with Juanita. Hey, Juanita, what do you got for us?
Hey, Andrew, I wanted you to see if you can explain James 2:14 for me.
Sure.
I was,
Yes, absolutely. Boy, that is a confusing passage for a lot of people. Juanita, did you know that Martin Luther decided that James should not be in the Bible? That was his opinion, that the book of James should just be tossed out. Why would a guy like Martin Luther decide such a crazy thing? How could he come to such a conclusion? Well, it's because of this very chapter, James chapter 2. And of course, I believe James belongs in the Bible, as most Christians do. But for Martin Luther, he saw it as contradicting the writings and teachings of Paul. In other words, Romans says you're justified by faith. But when you pop over to James 2, do you know what it says? It says three different times justified by works. Now, isn't that crazy? Why would James say justified by works? Well, first, we see it with the example of Abraham. In verse 21, it says, "Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up Isaac?" And then it says the same thing with Rahab. It says, "Was not Rahab the harlot also justified by works when she received the messengers?" And then it says, you see that a man is justified by works and not by faith alone. So three different times it says justified by works. Now that sounds like that's anti-Romans. That sounds anti-gospel. And that sounds anti-Paul. So you can see why Martin Luther would come to such a crazy conclusion. He was trying to resolve this. Now, what some people do in resolving it is they just kind of shove the whole thing under the carpet. They say things like, well, James isn't really saying that you're justified by works. It just is talking about works after you're saved. If you have a good, true salvation, then you'll do works later. Well, I'm not sure you can reinterpret things that way because, again, look what he said about Rahab. Justified by works. Look what he said about Abraham. Justified by works. And then he says, is not a man justified by works, not by faith alone? So three times he uses this word justified. And then in verse 14, which is the focus of your question, he says, what use is it, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but he has no works, can that faith save him? So what's in focus here? What is in focus is the kind of faith that saves a person. What is in focus is what is it that justifies a person. So we can't shove this under the carpet. We can't explain it away. The word justify is here and the word save is here. It's pretty obvious what James is talking about. He's talking about what justifies and what saves a person. Now, here's my take in resolving that dilemma. We got to confront all of this language head on. We can't delete any part of it. We can't shove it under the carpet. We can't pretend that it doesn't exist. We can't do any of that. Let's confront it head on. And let's ask Brother James here, hey, James, what do you mean by works? And James would say, well, I mean that Rahab believed. She believed God, and she opened the door. Opened the door to the spies. Why? Because she believed God? Well, what about Abraham? What did he do? Well, he offered Isaac. Why did he offer Isaac? Because he believed God. How many times did Abraham offer Isaac? One time. How many times did Rahab open the door? One time. So this is not about some lifelong record of helping somebody across the street or giving a bunch of money throughout your life or doing a bunch of great things. No, James is just making a point. He even says here, the demons believe. So the demons have, quote, faith. I mean, they believe, but it's a dead faith. It's not a saving faith. It's not a justifying faith. The demons can pass a theology test. But what is it that makes us different as Christians? How did we get saved? Did we just act like the demons and pass a good theology test? No. We decided that we wanted to open the door, right? Just like Abraham, we opened the door. Remember, Jesus tells us, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Whoever opens the door, I will come in." And that is what James is talking about. He's talking about a living faith that opens the door to Jesus. Likewise with Abraham. What did Abraham do? He offered Isaac. Well, what do? We offer ourselves to God. Lord Jesus Christ, I can't save myself. Only you can save me, and I'm going to let you. I offer myself to you. I open the door to Jesus. And in making that choice, we are calling upon the Lord to be saved. So, what we're saying here is basically what Jesus said. That's right. Jesus explained this in a beautiful way. They came to him and they said, "Show us the works of the Father." And Jesus said, "The work of the Father is to believe." Now, that's what I'm saying tonight about James 2. The work of the Father is to believe. It is a living faith when we believe, opening the door to Jesus. It is a living faith when we believe, offering ourselves to God. It's not what the demons do. The demons could tell you Jesus is the Son of God. The demons could tell you Jesus hung on a cross. The demons could tell you Jesus rose from the dead. The demons could pass a theology test. But what's different about us as Christians is that we have opened the door to Jesus and invited him to live inside of us. And that is saving faith. That is faith that justifies. So, Juanita, I want to put you on and see, does that make sense to you, my friend?
It does. It makes a lot of sense.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, love your question. We want to hear from you again. That was an important one that people ask a lot about, and it's a big deal because, I mean, if Martin Luther was so confused that his latest, greatest idea was to toss James out of the Bible, then my goodness, we ought to confront that passage head on. And there are too many people that disagree with me on this, and what they're doing is they're just shoving the whole thing under the carpet, acting like the language is not there. But the language is there, right there before our eyes. It's staring us in the face, some difficult, challenging language that we have to wrestle with, and we have to ask James in context what he actually means. So it's about that saving faith, it's about that justifying faith, it's about that living faith, and the two ways that James describes it is opening the door and offering what is needed. And that's exactly what we did at salvation. We opened the door to Jesus and we offered our lives to him. That is a saving faith.